SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Have you been seriously injured? Mama Justice is here for you. Our medical team partners with top-notch doctors, surgeons, therapists, and urologists, ensuring a comprehensive recovery journey. If you've been injured, call Mama Justice today. We're here for you.
Middays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. Middays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C Spire. Power your home or business with C Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C Spire. C Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Middays, SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth Studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this match day. Please describe for the folks, if they're not watching us, what you've got on today, man. You're ready to go.
I am patriotic out of the blue here. It's my typical, well, not typical, I just got it for this World Cup, but it's a white polo shirt. One sleeve is the navy blue background with the white stars. The other sleeve is the red and white stripes. I've got my American Outlaws bandana around my neck, and another one around my head as a headband to catch the sweat because I've been running this morning.
I love it, especially the headband. You look like you ought to be on the stage, like performing Red, White, and Blue with Leonard Skinner or something. That is awesome. Love it. Awesome. Well, what time today?
Kickoff will be at 7 o'clock on Fox, the USA taking on Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Yeah.
It's a knockout round match, the round of 32, win or go home. And for a little context, the U.S. men's national team has only ever won one knockout round matchup in our history. That was back in 2002 against Mexico in the round of 16.
Yeah.
This tournament's expanded, so there's a round of 32 before you get to the round of 16. So you would think if we could get to the round of 16, the last several World Cups that we attended, we could get through Bosnia and Herzegovina. And that's the way it looks on paper, but you don't play the match on paper. You don't roll dice and check off statistics and make plays like that.
Yeah.
It's not randomized that way. It's all down to the players on the pitch. And I believe that we have the players to succeed. I think we have all of our players healthy and ready to go. They got rested for the last group stage match. Pulisic, one of our stars, got to come in and shake the rust off after getting injured in the first match. He looks good to go, ready to go. But, yeah, kicks off at 7. I think the pregame starts tonight at 5. But you don't have to miss any of our shows here on Super Talk Mississippi. We'll have Sports Talk Mississippi running right up till 6, and then Thunder and Lightning Live with Brian Haydad from 6 to 7. I'll be right here in this seat wearing this same outfit, running the board for Haydad. And then the second Thunder and Lightning is off the air, I'm going to go sit in that seat and watch on that TV so I don't miss any of the match, at least the first half.
Love it.
If I had to give a score prediction, I don't think it's going to be as much of a runaway match as we saw in the match against Paraguay.
Okay.
I don't think we'll dominate like we did against Australia. I think it'll be much closer to Turkey. But we'll have our best players on the field, unlike the backups like we had against Turkey. If I had to pick a score line, I would say could be as low scoring as 1-0, 1-0, with the U.S. coming out on top. I'd much rather it be 2-0, 3-0, 3-1, something like that. That'd be a lot less nerve-wracking. And I'm just fingers crossed, hoping and praying, knocking on all the wood that we don't have to go to penalties because I don't know if Mark can take it.
So I'm going to go ahead out on a limb here and make a prediction that the American team prevails because it's the 250th birthday of the country. It's July 4th. Fate is on our side, right?
It's time to make history. We've only won one other knockout round game. It's time to make that two.
Fate is indeed on our side. The 250th birthday of this great country coming up this Saturday. Some states have elected not to participate in the Great American State Fair, 10 to be exact. We listed those for you yesterday. But this is once again about Donald Trump. It's sad that they're obsessed with this and that this is all some form of defiance of him. Can't they look past that and recognize how deadgum blessed and fortunate we are to live in the greatest country ever? Of course, they don't think that. Many of them don't, which
Not
is
unless
sad.
There's a Democrat in the Oval Office.
Oh, my gosh. So, with respect to that, how about San Diego? They've got a 4th of July celebration, and you shared this with me after the show yesterday, and then now it's made some news headlines, and it came across my various feeds today. Would you please just to give the folks a bit of a rundown of the schedule for the July 4th celebration in San Diego?
Oh, yeah, this definitely sounds like the kind of party you want to go to, right? So the schedule of events for the July 4th festivities in San Diego begins at 5:45. From 5:45 to 6 p.m., they're going to have a tribal, intimate blessing welcoming to land. At 6 p.m., they're going to have a welcoming and land acknowledgement. At 6:10, they will have a tribal invocation. At 6:20, they'll have the national and black national anthems. At 6:35, the local tribal community stories will be told. At 7 o'clock, Latino community stories will be told. At 7:25, the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, and community stories will all be shared. At 7:50, the LGBTQIA plus community stories will get shared. At 8:25, the Black and African community stories will get shared. At 8:50, we'll have closing remarks. And then at 9:05, they'll shoot fireworks.
So let me get this straight. If you're white, you're completely excluded from this deal. These people who claim to be morally superior and so inclusive and diverse and welcoming have, in fact, excluded all white people from this event. Incredible. Does this make them feel better about themselves somehow?
Sadly, yes.
Look at me. That's because they provide no other contribution to society. Not that this is one. It's a feeble attempt to do so, and they mark it up as such. Are they not engaging in discrimination here, essentially?
Well, the ultimate irony is all of the leftists and liberals celebrating the birthright citizenship decision while sometimes even in the same breath talking about how we're all on stolen land.
Oh, my gosh.
How is it you can just show up on a plane and be born and you're American? But somehow people that have had their families live here for hundreds of years now are on stolen land? How does that work?
It's incredible. It's unbelievable. But just looking at that rundown, help me out here. When do we ever actually celebrate America and its founding? I didn't see that on the schedule for the 4th of July celebration. Freaking sick is what you are. You know, I get fired up on this program more so than anything else is when I feel like adults are abusing children. And I don't mean abuse from a physical perspective. Of course, that's abhorrent. And that happens. But taking advantage of little people who, in general, are taught to respect and trust adults. And there are some despicable adults that take advantage of that. And here's an example. And it mainly deals with this radical gender ideology crap. But I'm looking at a video of an LGBTQ pride truck for kids. And It is a white van, and I can't tell the location. I got to look that up. And it's loaded up with kids. It's painted in the rainbow colors, and it says, of course, "Be yourself." The writing in, kind of cartoony looking fancy letters in the rainbow pride colors. Well, this van has got children on it who are wearing clothes that are in the LGBTQ stripes, and they're handing out candy to homeless people and others even on the streets of what looks like a crowded downtown city. I can't tell where it is. It's these children on this van that are doing their dirty work, their sexual deviancy. Go do your crap in the bedroom and leave the kids out of it. My gosh, that's so sick. And, of course, Rhino, the kids have the obligatory mask on. They got them in masks. Masks and pride colors coming out of this van that says, "Be yourself," handing out candy. You people are sick. You're despicable. You're disgusting. You're taking advantage of children, man. Have you no shame? I know the answer is no. Zero. To advance your twisted, deviated agenda. We're going to come right back with Tony Malone, co-host of Forging Alliances, and Mike Couch, co-host also of Forging Alliances in the Element Well studio.
Hey, this is Bob.
The talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
We're rolling. Hit it. Go. Play it.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Appropriate bumper music for this next segment. Appreciate that, Rhino. We're pleased to welcome Tony Malone and Mike Couch. They are co-hosts of Forging Alliances. That's a local show on Super Talk Meridian. And we ran into you guys at the Neshoba County Fair last week. Enjoyed that. Of course, we were broadcasting live, and we talked about getting you on, coming over here, and telling the folks exactly what you do and why that's important, especially given that this is the 250th birthday of our country. What do you think?
That's right. Gerard, we appreciate you having us on. And, yeah, we met at the Neshoba County Fair, and great event up there. So, yeah, celebrating our country's 250th anniversary of freedom. What an event, and we're excited about that. Our show, Forging Alliances, Mike, and you know, it's funny, I got to thinking, and Mike and I were both coming over here this morning thinking about Forging Alliances. Okay, so this was a brainchild of Mike's several years ago, right?
Yeah, about 5 years ago.
About 5 years ago, he started thinking about how a platform that he could go either on the radio or TV or some kind of an outlet, media outlet, and come up with an idea called Forging Alliances. So him and Shelley, our GM over at SuperTalk in Meridian, came up with this show idea, and then they approached me with it and said, "We'd like for you to be the voice." So I said, "Okay, that sounds great," because honestly, I'd been searching for something to get into myself. But Mike and I have known each other since boot camp back in '79. So we forged an alliance back then by going into the military together.
Okay.
And Mike has spent 26 years, retired veteran from the military, and I spent 6 years in. Okay. So Forging Alliances, I Googled that this morning. I said, okay, we're going on this show, we're talking about Forging Alliances. What does that actually mean? Yeah. So I'm going to read it. It means to build strong, lasting partnerships or cooperative relationships through hard work and shared goals. So we encompass that idea because everybody, every family somewhere has a veteran or has somebody that has been in or is in the military to date, right, Mike?
It touches every family somehow, and military and veterans are the fabric of our country, being 250 years of freedom. So we want to embrace that. And they're the fabric of all small communities around the country.
Amen.
Sure. Yeah.
Especially Mississippi. I mean, right there in Meridian, we have a Guard base. We have a Navy base.
Yeah.
Both of those are huge training facilities. Navy base trains Navy pilots and also trains Marine pilots. Look at Columbus Air Force Base. And then you have Camp Shelby. So we have Keesler down on the coast. So our state is inundated with large segments of veterans and people that are currently serving in the military.
And there's a lot of Army Guard bases and armories throughout the state, too. Especially Mississippi is really blessed with quite a few.
Indeed, no doubt. So both of you gentlemen served, as you just said, Tony. So which
Mike
branch?
stuck it out a lot longer than I did.
Which branch?
Air Force. Air Guard.
Air Guard.
Okay.
Force.
Yeah.
Air
Awesome.
Guard.
Well, of course, on behalf of all of Mississippi and America, thank you for your service.
Our pleasure.
That's always the proper response there. We appreciate that. This is great, and I feel like that the attitude towards those who serve in the country's uniform, guys like us have been around a while. We've seen sort of waves in that, right?
Most definitely.
My brother served in Strategic Air Command during the Vietnam era, and that's just a period of time that it's kind of sad in our country where so many of those guys, as you know, they were just called to do a duty by their country. They weren't involved in the politics of war and so forth.
That's right.
Their country called, and they went away and they did it. But unfortunately, they didn't receive the sort of welcome that and praise that they were entitled to when they returned, especially out in San Francisco. You remember the stories of going through the San Francisco airport and they're out there spitting on them and crazy stuff like that. And that because that happened while I was alive, Vietnam, 55,000, as you know, lost their lives. I think average age of someone in country was 19 years old. They're just kids, man.
Yes.
With bullets flying around their head.
Exactly.
And most of them left straight from high school. That was their senior trip.
Yeah, exactly
Vietnam.
right. 100%.
And that's I think of it now, it's crazy.
It is crazy. But I feel like the tide has turned on that, and that Americans now realize that these guys, they sacrificed for our freedom, and they did what their country asked them to do.
That's exactly
and
right.
This country, as you guys know, is unique in that civilians control the military.
Right.
The military just does what the civilians tell them to do, and sometimes they make mistakes when they make those decisions, but nonetheless, it's still a much better system than we have in other countries.
Oh, most definitely. And that's the platform right there. We wanted to, Mike wanted to have a platform that would honor veterans, honor the people that are serving in the military, law enforcement, special operations people. We have interviewed, Gerard, this is like pouring water on the ground, this show is. It's going in such all different directions. It's like herding cats.
Yeah.
We got to figure out how to kind of streamline this, and we're learning as we go. We've only been doing this 6 months.
Right.
I've only been on the radio for 6 months. But it's a great platform to be a part of. I'm honored that they asked me to, Shelley and Mike asked me to be a part of this. I do want to read one thing, and this kind of give the audience a little bit of an idea. So forging alliances exist to unite veterans families, first responders, law enforcement, and community leaders through radio and social media platforms that connect people, strengthen communities, and inspire positive change. We are committed to building meaningful relationships rooted in faith, hope, and service to create a lasting impact.
That's awesome.
That's our mission right there. And we have been blessed. We have interviewed. Let me back up. Our main sponsor bought into this show before we went on the air. Rope Solutions, Russell Williamson with Rope Solutions. And Russell bought into this program, and he bought into it heavy. we're trying to live up to that, and I believe we are doing exactly what he and you and Shelley had envisioned for us to be doing.
Absolutely. And what Russell Williams does with Rope Solutions is phenomenal. He takes veterans and gets them transitioned after their military service and transition them back into civilian work.
Sure.
And they go into the oil fields and teach them what they've learned in the military.
Special operations guys.
Yeah.
Super
know what they're
guys.
doing.
Yeah. Delta Force people.
That's awesome.
So
creating opportunities for these guys so they can earn a living, take care of their family.
And taking what they've learned in the military, their strategic information and learning, and putting it over into the civilian world.
Yeah.
And companies are buying into this. I don't think it would be too far out to say Castle just signed on with Rope Solutions.
Awesome.
Meridian.
Yeah.
So he's gone international with this company, and kudos to Russell, and thank you so much again. Big shout out to him for believing in us in that.
That's incredible.
And believing in the military guys that, PTSD and suicide affects military quite largely.
Absolutely.
And transition is one of the ways that is hardest for them. What you do in the military don't necessarily equate to what you do in civilian life.
Yeah.
And this gives them an avenue and bring what they've learned in the military to private sector.
Sure.
And I applaud that, really like it, and that helps bring the communities together some too, and reduces the stress of transitioning.
Yeah. What kind of reaction have you gotten from the audience? Have you had some folks that have approached you and shared
I think
their
our
thoughts?
numbers. I think our numbers pretty well show that, don't they?
No, I think so. And we've had a lot of good response from it. And like Tony was saying, we've interviewed some really amazing people with stories. Lone Eagle Honor Flight, which flies veterans to Washington and to visit all the war memorials there, aging veterans, especially our Vietnam veterans.
Yep.
And then we've
MI6,
MI6
guy that ran MI6 in London. We've interviewed him.
That's
cool.
It's that's cool.
It's like pouring water on the ground again, Gerard.
We got a break right now, but if you can hang with us since you're in the studio here, let's keep talking.
Would love to.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we got Tony Malone and Mike Couch, co-hosts of Forging Alliances on SuperTalk Meridian. We're coming right back.
From the Zebro.com.
Okay, is everybody ready?
I'm ready. Ready here.
Middays with Gerard Gibert on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. In our studio, we've got Tony Malone and Mike Couch. They are co-hosts of Forging Alliances, SuperTalk Meridian. So, Tony, the state of Mississippi, it always feels like, is a favorable place for members of our military, both active and veterans. Unfortunately, there's some areas of our country, as you know, that don't think very highly of those who wear our uniform. I don't see that, honestly, a lot in Mississippi, and I hope that's the case for you guys as well.
Yes, most definitely. We were talking with Alex out there before we came in here. How did we wind up? Are we from Mississippi? My dad was in the military for 30 years, and we wound up in Meridian at his last duty station, and we stayed. And that was it. I've been here ever since 73. And Mike,
all right. My dad was in the Air Force and took a job in Birmingham, then transferred to Meridian. We've been here ever since.
Awesome.
So, You know, we were talking off break there about most families, if you did the demographics, just about every family is affected by somebody, a service member or a person that's been associated or affiliated with the military. So out of the three of us in the room, all three families have been affected.
We all got
by
stories.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a huge platform for us. As Mike stated, we have interviewed some amazing people. Guy that did 5 tours in Vietnam, leader of MI6 in London. We've interviewed these people. They're not all war stories, though. Not everybody comes on and tells us their story, but they tell us what they've done in the civilian life that the military life prepared them for. And also, we've had people on, like Drew with Vets Vet up in Hernando, that helps veterans find the money or the disabilities that they're looking for that they can't do on their own. He has devised a company called the Vets Vet. Big shout out to Drew. And he helps these people find these different areas of help that they're so needed.
Yeah.
We've also had the American Legion and the VFW. They do a lot for our communities, and they're kind of like the unsung hero. They've got all kind of different programs that helps families, not just of veterans, but in every community.
Yeah.
And
so, Mike, you know as well that we have veterans' homes scattered about the state of Mississippi and the country, of course. And I have a good friend that he's a little too old to do it anymore, but he used to travel around and provide just a little bit of entertainment to those guys on a monthly basis. And I kind of helped him out for several years with the funding of that. But and I wanted to be in the background. I didn't want them to know that I was involved, just because my respect for them. But he would tell me often that they literally don't have any families remaining.
Right.
That some of these guys are laid up in these homes. They're incapacitated. They have no families.
They've outlived their families.
Yeah.
And it's sad. And through Stronger Together Foundation, we have young people that are up and coming in the music industry.
Yeah.
And they go into these homes and play music for the veterans.
Yeah.
And kind of cheer them up.
It's entertainment,
and then the BFW, American Legion, visits on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah.
Because they've outlived their families.
Incredible.
So they've still got their military family.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
That's a foundation that you started.
Yeah, Stronger Together is a foundation Eric Smith and myself started about 5 years ago, where we unite families that's been affected by suicide.
Okay, yeah.
And we lose 22 a day.
It's incredible.
Suicide, but their families, are left to move forward, and they struggle. So we help them and give them resources to move forward, and we work with other organizations.
I got you.
Fifth Squad being one of them right here in Jackson that we work with. Very, very good group.
So, Tony, you handed me a flyer on the break. You've got the Traveling Vietnam Memorial Wall coming to Meridian, correct?
That is correct. That's another brainstorm of a Mike. He is the brains behind this project, obviously.
Give me too much credit.
And I just do the talking. But Mike had the traveling wall through 3 years ago.
Right.
And this is a huge 400-foot long Vietnam Memorial Wall. It's a replica of what's in Washington.
It's a 1/3 size scale.
One-third size scale.
Okay.
It's massive. It's amazing. But along with that, we've got the traveling tribute too, which it covers every war from World War I up until present day. Over 620,000 heroes will be represented in the East Mississippi Veterans Park in Meridian on October 8th through the 11th. And we're going to try to honor the families and the veterans and the deceased, and we also want to educate and inspire a whole other generation.
That's correct.
And on the 4th of July here in a couple of days, we're going to celebrate, which is great. These heroes give us the right and stood up for it, so we can celebrate and we can enjoy being Americans and free. But then come October, come out and join us at the East Mississippi Veterans Park, and let's honor the men and women who stood up and paid the ultimate sacrifice.
That's right.
For us to be able to do the things we do in this country.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So you were saying earlier, Mike, you guys told me on the break, surviving one tour in Vietnam was an accomplishment.
Right.
But what'd you say, 5, 6?
Yeah, we've interviewed a couple of different gentlemen. One had survived 5 tours in Vietnam and one 4.
1 4. Yep, exactly. Before show, I try to get these people in or talk to them on the phone. Say, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. Give me a bio so I can bring you into the show. And this guy's, well, I don't really know much about myself. When he got finished, I had a page and a half, and I looked at him, and I'm seeing 2 Purple Hearts, a Bronze Star, and I'm like, unreal.
Good grief, man.
Unreal.
And so humble about it.
And so humble about it.
Gosh.
One guy we were interviewing, he said, Tony, and he was out in Texas working an oil field with Rope Solutions. He said, Tony, I've been overseas in Afghanistan and all the different places over there so many times I lost count as a special ops.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, wow.
Lost count.
You watch movies about these cats.
Yeah.
And then when you get one in the studio and he's staring at you and you're like,
that's so rare,
boy,
isn't it?
You're the real deal.
I mean, you're in rare air.
You're the real.
That's incredible.
Rare air. Exactly. Russell was kind of like that when we interviewed him.
That's amazing.
He came in the studio, and I was just looking at him, and I'm thinking, and then I go on Facebook, and I see a picture of him in the whole get-up, and I'm like, that's the real deal right there.
Golly.
Unreal.
Yeah, that's incredible.
We've had all kind of incredible people on the show, and that's what makes it fascinating, and
Yes.
people can relate to it and kind of see what these guys have done. We had one gentleman on there that survived a free fall.
Sure did.
And lived to tell about it.
Yep.
That was amazing.
Sure did. Paratrooper survived a free fall.
Free fall, man, and lived.
Yeah. And then I walk out and I'm thinking, Lord, thank you for the life that I've lived and what you've done for me in my life, because, a lot of these guys suffer from PTSD, severe PTSD. But like you said, they are super humble in their approach to us. And whatever we need from them, they're just open to us, and it's a blessing. It really is.
Right, and they're sons of someone, their fathers, their husbands. They're real people in the community, and it's just great to see everybody interacting. And we're trying to promote veteran-owned businesses, veteran-supported businesses, and small community businesses as well. Our smaller mom-and-pop operations seem to be suffering nowadays, and we've got an endless supply, or veterans are an untapped resource. There's a lot of us.
They really are.
And we can support these smaller businesses in our communities. And like I said before, the veterans are the fabric of our communities.
And then we have many, of course, in the prime of their working years that serve in the Gulf region in the various conflicts. Yep. And I think we all know several of those folks as well.
Yep, exactly. Right. And, our show doesn't necessarily focus exactly, the centerpiece is not exactly the veterans, but it's community support.
Sure.
It's law enforcement, first responders.
Yeah.
People that are in our community that, man, we're just trying to forge alliances.
Yeah,
right?
Makes sense.
I mean, that's the bottom line. And it's been a complete blessing for me. I was looking for an outlet I'm retired. And once you retire, Gerard, man, people start coming out of the woodwork wanting you to do different things.
You're right.
When Mike approached me with this, they had approached me several years ago about doing the radio. He said, man, you got the voice, you got the face for radio, thank you. And, I'd say, well, I'll try to do something one day. And then they came up with this, and I was like, man, I'm all in.
That's awesome.
It's awesome.
Well, I know you guys do a great job. I think it's a great idea, a great concept, and I'll just end by saying this. We get a lot more good stuff accomplished when we work together than when we work separately.
Amen.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what you're trying to do here with forging alliances, and we appreciate it.
Exactly. God bless you. God bless us. God bless our families. And God bless America.
Amen.
And
Tony Malone and Mike Couch.
Thanks for having
us
on.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, brother.
Tony Malone and Mike Couch, co-host of Forging Alliances on SuperTalk Meridian. Check it out. Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Hello. It's so awesome.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Come on. Let's get on with the show.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. It is Independence Day week. In fact, we're off Friday, right? Yeah. We got the best of coming your way Friday, and then we will, of course, enjoy unusual July 4th on a Saturday this year. Looking forward to that. Big celebrations across the country. On the C Spire text line, we were talking earlier about the schedule of events. Rhino ran that down for you in San Diego for their July 4th event. I'm not going to call it a celebration because I didn't see anything but a bunch of apologies and acknowledgments and recognitions to everybody but white people, by the way. And Dan in Hattiesburg says, will they give up the tribal lands since, I guess, 2 or 3 of the scheduled events involve recognizing the tribal lands upon which the event is conducted.
Well, you got to have the invocation of the woke religion, which is the tribal land acknowledgement.
Mo says, don't forget Hanoi Jane. Who could forget Jane Fonda? Yeah, famously dubbed Hanoi Jane because she seemed to take the side of the people who wanted to kill Americans more than she did the people who were just doing a duty. She was and will always be a traitor. I agree, Mose. John in Pontotoc says Greenwood unit was one of the few Guard units deployed to Vietnam. I didn't know that. Thanks for letting us know. Here's one on the C Spire text line. It's hilarious to listen to boomers and Gen X talk about Vietnam and get all soft-hearted and then just keep making the same mistakes in the Gulf War, Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Yemen, and now Iran. When are y'all going to learn that we can't keep kicking the world in the teeth? This individual, Rhino, is incapable of discerning between the United States military and its function and its responsibility and obligation under our system and under our laws to simply do what elected civilians order them to do. That is our system. It's better than any others. They do not work for a king. That's why the country was formed, as a matter of fact. So the fact that we are recognizing and praising and extending gratitude to those who simply did what the civilians we elect asked them to do is something I find appropriate and proper. Now, we could argue all day long about whether or not decisions made by civilians we elect were appropriate with respect to Vietnam. Yeah, I look back on that and see we wasted the precious lives of 55,000 Americans, not to mention those who survived it and were never the same afterwards, still among us today. That's different. But I still respect them, and I still admonish and condemn those who do not. That's me. But you know what? Because of the freedom that they protected, those idiots have the right, to condemn those who came home to an unwelcoming country. They're too stupid to understand that you can't do that in other countries. You'll lose your head, literally.
But trying to have a nuanced argument with this mealy-mouthed midwit is just an effort in futility.
Incredible. I'm not saying we can't honor the veterans and respect them. You're putting words in my mouth. No, you said you were laughing. You said hilarious because we were showing our respect. That's what you... I didn't misread that. I didn't make that. I didn't insert that word. Hilarious? That we're honoring those who serve? That's hilarious? Unbelievable.
It's because this individual thinks they're smarter than the average bear because they're centrist.
Oh, I see. A centrist. So...
He also doesn't understand that Gen X started in 65 and Vietnam ended in 75, so Gen X was 10 years old when Vietnam ended.
That's true.
Tell us you don't know what you're talking about without telling us you don't know what you're talking about there, buddy.
Unbelievable. Well, I'm not going to apologize for extending my gratitude to those who served in wars that I may not agree with. It's a little, as you say, it's a little nuance. What's wrong with that? Man, again, they just did what their country asked them to do. That's all they did. And just as you heard Mike say, they graduate from high school, and a month later, they're in the dang fields in Vietnam with bullets flying around their heads because their country asked them to do it. And by the way, I have the right, because of the freedom they protected, to disagree with my country. It's pretty simple. And that's what we're celebrating. That's what we're celebrating, is that right and the sacrifices they made to protect that right. I disagree with the idiots that go out there and denounce this country and put other countries above it, but I respect their right to do so. That's the difference, Rhino, between us and them, because they want to just completely quash us and just make us go away. They don't respect our right to disagree with them. Fox News, SuperTalk News coming up next. We're coming right back in the Element Well studio. Douglas Carswell with the Mississippi Center for Public Policy at 12:05. Your of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
And now, another hour of the talk that keeps Mississippi talking. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Begin your transition now.
Now on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It is Middays from the Element Well studio on this
match day.
Once again, Rhino is sporting the proper attire for match day with his uniquely American Stars and Stripes shirt on, but also got the Stars and Stripes bandana. Man, I love it. I'm telling you. You need to be on the stage performing Red, White, and Blue with Leonard Skinner. That's what it looks like. We may have to crank that one up later on in the program. And, of course, on the C Spire text line, somebody, who was it? I think it was Ricky in Aberdeen. Yeah. Said Saturday in the Park. I think it was the 4th of July. Chicago, of course. That tune, famous tune. We'll have to crank that one up. And Ricky says, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time in quite a while that 4th of July actually falls on a Saturday. I think you may be right, but I hadn't researched it. Rhino's squinting about it right now.
2020 was the last time, yeah.
Okay. 2020. Of course, every dang thing was shut down in 2020, unfortunately. Patrick from Tennessee says, I have some choice words for your previous texter, totally unrepeatable on a family format, such as your great establishment, good sirs. Army, Navy, Cold War, Desert Storm, era, Iraqi, freedom veteran. Patrick from Tennessee. Salute to you, Patrick. Thank you, of course, for your service. Again, I don't know where Patrick stands on the decision to go into the Gulf. And again, that's perfectly debatable. That's what civilians do. Members of our military do not. They don't engage in those debates. It's pretty straightforward. That's the way it's been. Can you deny? Can anyone deny or object to the fact that that is the best system by far? No, I don't think you can. And again, I don't agree with all those decisions made. But that doesn't mean I don't respect and honor and recognize and extend gratitude to the people who just did their duty. I've talked enough about that, but in under some circumstances, I wouldn't even read that text, honestly. But I felt it was appropriate today because I want to know, again, the nuance, the second-order thinking, the discernment. Civilians make these decisions. The people that wear a uniform do what the civilians tell them. Sometimes they lose their lives doing it. They get harmed. We are very deeply appreciative for their sacrifice. Period. Simple as that. End of story. No doubt about it. So, let's see. All right, let's get to some of the other news going on in the country and across the state of Mississippi. The big news yesterday, the birthright citizenship ruling that came out of the United States Supreme Court. This is it's extremely complicated. And I guess the fact, in my view, Rhino, that we didn't have a unanimous decision tells me that it's not as straightforward an issue as one would think. The other thing, while I'm talking about unanimous decisions, how can we not get a unanimous decision on the case involving the
dudes in dresses
playing against girls in sports? How can that not get a unanimous decision? What are these people thinking? You know, a certain justice who can't define what a woman is. Unbelievable.
The same one that uses TikTok slang in her official opinion?
Yeah, you read that for us yesterday. I couldn't believe it. This is a United States Supreme Court justice. They should be better than anybody with wordsmithing. But she's terrible. Writes like a third grader.
There's a solid 4-minute video with just audio, because you can't video in the Supreme Court, of the oral arguments. And it seems like the main thing she says is, I don't understand or I don't know.
That's exactly right. You're right about that.
But then again, what do you expect from the Biden administration and the auto pen with the dude that didn't know where he was half the time?
That is so true. Well, 6-3 vote, and essentially upheld that the 14th Amendment guarantees birthright citizenship to the children of anyone, essentially, born on the soil of this country. Justice Kavanaugh dissented from that opinion, along with Justices Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito. And so it was interesting. Kavanaugh found that Trump's executive order, it's interesting. He kind of dissented, but he gave kind of an opening. He found that the executive order violated a federal statute that, in fact, grants citizenship to immigrants' offspring. But he all but invited Congress to amend that statute or otherwise enact new legislation. I think the big controversial issue here is what's necessary to change this current standard of you're born here, even if you're born to an illegal, even if a Chinese female engaged in so-called birth tourism, which is alive and well, certainly. You come over here just in time to drop your baby and you got an American citizen, and who knows what malicious or nefarious intent they have with that privilege of becoming an American citizen. So, not really sure. But there's some concern or some discussion and controversy. Can this be corrected with statute? Corrected by passing some sort of law that says, no, just because you're born here doesn't mean you're necessarily a citizen unless you meet some other conditions and criteria. Or would this require an amendment to the United States Constitution?
There's an argument to be made that you could basically end all of this nonsense by just enforcing certain statutes that are already in place. Like, for example, if you're an American citizen living abroad, you still have to file taxes in the United States of America. I wonder how many of these anchor babies that are living abroad are filing taxes in the United States of America.
That's a good point. I don't know. And again, there's a lot of people upset about this. I'm upset about it. I'm torn between, did the courts get this right or not? I feel like it's a little over my head from a legal perspective, honestly. I'm not going to pretend that I know all of these intricacies and nuances and application, and mainly from the perspective of how is the court supposed to interpret these things and rule? And you know that the controversy always is, are you a strict contextualist or are you ruling based on intent? Well, my personal opinion is if you look at the strict text, maybe they got it right. But if you think about intent, no, that's not what was intended. Not what was intended with the 14th Amendment. And then I've seen people say, well, if we didn't have that, well, then the founders wouldn't be citizens. Well, wait, they created the country, so that seems kind of dumb to me. But that's what's going on. Now, there's some in Congress who have said they are going to draft an amendment. Now, this is kind of interesting. One of the first out of the gates to make that announcement was Senator Eric Schmidt from Missouri. So I found some references to articles about that, but in doing that research, came across a link to his website, Eric Schmidt, U.S. Senator, for announcing, at least in the search results, that he's going to offer this amendment. Except when I linked on it, the page isn't found. I don't know if that's just a technical problem or if there's something else going on. But I'm looking at it right now. Big, bold letters, page not found, Eric Schmidt, U.S. Senator. That's after clicking the link displayed in the search results for him announcing we're going to do it. But there are others as well that have come out and said, yeah, we're going to get together and get an amendment. Now, just a reminder, a little civics reminder here at Rhino, 2/3 of both chambers must vote in favor of placing an amendment, actually sending the amendment down to the states. And then 75%, 3/4 of the states, that's 38 states, have to ratify that amendment. And then, in fact, the Constitution is thus amended. So 2 gates, 1 Congress, 66%. Now, the other approach, of course, is a convention of states, as you know. Same deal, though. Got to have 3/4 to get it through. Purposely designed that way. So you couldn't just monkey with it the way you wanted to. The founders knew that. No, this has got to really survive the test of time, and we got to make this bar really high. I completely agree with their thought process there. But there are some of the GOP who are saying that an amendment is necessary. They're sort of disagreeing with the president who says, hey, look, guys, get together and put this in statute. Some of these guys are disagreeing, including Governor Ron DeSantis, who says we need an amendment to do that. But that's the process. Coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
Interrupt this program. Gerard Gibert.
Here we go. This is huge news. Huge news. Huge. You need to listen to this.
Middays with Gerard. SuperTalk, Mississippi.
What a great tune that is. That'll get you fired up. We're an American band, Grand Funk Railroad from Flint, Michigan. That's the great Don Brewer on the drums and lead vocals there. Awesome tune. Appreciate that, Rhino. Absolutely. So they co-founded the band, by the way. He co-founded it along with Mark Farner on the lead guitar and Mel Shayer on the bass. Just 3 guys playing bass, guitar, and drums. Made great music. Flint, Michigan. Farner used to tour with a guitar, his lead guitar. The body was a mirror. And so whenever the stage lights shined on, if he held it at a certain angle and it got to your eyes, if it reflected to your eyes, it'd like blind you almost for a momentarily. But that's pretty cool. That's back before we had all the fancy stuff we do today on the stages.
Oh, yeah, the movable lights and the movable projectors and stuff.
Awesome. Saw them at the Mississippi Coliseum back in 72, I think it was. So, on the C Spire text line, Richard wants In America by Charlie Daniels. Got it, Richard. We'll see if the all-hit request line will heed your request. SCOTUS got it right. If you want it changed, make an amendment. This is how our country is supposed to work. And I hear you, and I respect that opinion as well. All I'm trying to say is there's always been this debate, has there not, Rhino, about how justices, how the high court should rule, according to the strict text or the intent, or some combination of the two. That's worthy of debate.
And if you take into account the dissenting opinion of the brightest Supreme Court justice on the bench, Justice Thomas.
Yeah, he is, man.
Put together a 91-page dissent, which, for context, usually in an entire year's worth of opinions, he might put out 200 pages worth of dissent.
That's right.
In this one instance, he put out almost 100. Even he says at the end of his opinion, at the end of his dissent, that he doesn't think this will stand the test of time.
Okay.
That this opinion will last.
Interesting. I didn't know that part of it. I knew about the 91-page dissent. Yeah. He was visibly mad. If you saw him afterwards, there's some reporters tried to approach him. Of course, there's kind of a limit to what they'll say, intentionally. This is what Republican Senator Eric Schmidt said. In the wake of an erroneous Supreme Court ruling like this one, Congress has a duty to examine the Constitution's text, the historical record, and the policy consequences. Congress also has the power to respond. When the court mistakenly interprets a statute, Congress can amend the statute through bicameralism and presentment. I've never even heard of that before. But when the court entrenches its mistakes as a constitutional command, the remedy must match the injury. Thus, his announcement that he is going to introduce a constitutional amendment. Again, got to get approval from 2/3 of both houses, and then that gets sent to the states, and the states' legislatures would have to vote to do so. 3/4 of the states' legislatures, I believe, with a majority vote at the state level. But 3/4 of the states, just want to make that clear, have to sign on to it and support it. That's the bar we're up against. And Mike Lee, senator from Utah, he once served as a clerk for Justice Alito. He also said that Congress will have to respond. Quote, we're going to need a constitutional amendment. So these guys are leaning more into the idea that an amendment is going to be necessary to fix this perceived problem of just allowing anybody to come in the country. Now, I looked this up. There are like 3.8 billion females in the world. I know this may sound crazy, but based on this, every one of them could come into this country and drop a baby, and we'd have 3.8 billion new citizens. I know that's crazy, but it's just something to think about. The consequences, the ramifications of this decision. And again, does anybody think that was the intent of the founders? No. Does the text say that? Yes. And then again, so we're back to this debate, text or intent. As simple as that. But it looks like we may have an amendment certainly considered and debated in the United States Congress here pretty soon, because Eric Schmidt and others have said, yeah, we're going to do that immediately. We're going to draft one. We'll see where that goes. It's historical, honestly, when you think about it. And when I looked up Senator Schmidt, I just said that his website, that was the result of clicking on the link about his announcement. Nothing there. We shall see. Man, that's crazy. That we're having to deal with this. And again, I don't think this would be a problem. And people are saying, well, why are we just now paying attention to this? I think two reasons. One is wide open borders that Joe Biden put upon us, and that has allowed millions to come across. Second is, it's like the Chinese woke up and figured out this birth tourism something is something, and they're starting to leverage that and encouraging it and probably orchestrating it, if not funding it as well. And who knows what the purpose of that is. I know they can't be trusted, and it is a concern. that a Chinese female could just come over into this country and have a baby, and boom, their baby's now an American citizen.
Well, the tinfoil hat brigade is not unique to America. There are tinfoil hatters in China, and when their theories get out onto the internet, they tend to be a little wackier than the normal American tinfoil hat conspiracy theories. But one of the ones that came out of China regarding this birth tourism is that it's believed with enough American citizens living in China that then China could just start shipping them over to a random point in America and set up a city and just have a Chinese city in America full of Chinese Americans with American citizenship that are not really beholden to anything in America because their allegiance still lies with China.
Yeah. I'd say that's a problem. Now, I found this interesting that in doing my research, I came across an article from a law firm. Now, I haven't actually looked up exactly, believe it or not, where this law firm is located. Okay, Houston. So it's Reddy Newman Brown, PC, U.S. Business Immigration Attorneys. That literally is incorporated in their brand, their logo, their firm name. So they immediately yesterday, Rhino, published 20 frequently asked questions for expecting parents regarding birthright citizenship. And it starts with very straightforward. My baby will be born in the United States. Will my child be a U.S. citizen? Obviously, this is targeted at people who are not citizens, about to have a baby, a female, about to have a baby. Yes, if your child is born on U.S. soil, your child is a U.S. citizen at birth. The Supreme Court confirmed this on June 30th, 2026. And so it goes on and on like, does it matter what visa I am on? Right? What law gives my child citizenship? And they go on with the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. And then there's the other question, by the way, that I haven't brought up is this term jurisdiction. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof, that the exact phrase in the amendment. And there's some debate over exactly what that means, right? That's part of the discussion, and I think one of the 4 dissenting justices may have actually said something about that, as I recall. So, anyhow, I just thought it was interesting that this immigration law firm's already published these 20 FAQs concerning this ruling yesterday, out of the gate. All right, so the Democratic Socialist of America, they had another, I guess you'd have to call it a victory last night in Colorado. 29-year-old, we'll dig into that on the other side of the break, ousted, I believe, a 15-year incumbent. And that was, I'm not sure how to pronounce her first name, Milat Quiros, beats Representative Diane DeJette in the Democratic primary.
She's a socialist. Her name is not worthy of learning.
This lady is crazy radical. It's a bit concerning that these people seem to be taking over the Democratic Party. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.
From the Seabrook, Gerard Gibert. He keeps his classified documents right where they belong. Inside a Journey record jacket from the 1980s. Gerard Gibert, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Well, the eagle's been flying slow, and the flag's been flying low, and a lot of people saying that America's fixing to fall. But speaking just for me, and some people from Tennessee,
We got a thing or two to tell you all. This lady may have stumbled, but she ain't.
So we were talking before we went to break about the Democratic Socialist candidate prevailing over a 30-year incumbent, 15 terms. This person wasn't born when the incumbent took office, 29 years old, and it looks like she will advance to the general election in the fall to represent one of the congressional districts in the state of Colorado. So this is another Democrat socialist who has ousted a House incumbent. Just really incredible. Milot Kiros, I believe, is a lawyer, if I'm not mistaken, and is 29 years old. So she said, we are winning from coast to coast, from every level of office. We are taking back our party in our country. Really? Taking it back? And J.B. Pritzker,
that guy.
Oh, my gosh, the governor of the land of Lincoln, sadly, Illinois. He said yesterday on CNN with Caitlin that embracing socialism is how Democrats are going to win election. Quote, in New York, 3 candidates who identify as Democratic Socialists won their primary campaigns. Do you think that's good? That was the question asked by CNN. Pritzker responded, quote, that is the recipe for winning in 2026 and beyond. They're leaning into it. Full bore. So voters, certainly in Democrat primaries, seem to be favoring those who lean further to the left and embrace socialism. Now, this individual in Colorado, no surprise, endorsed by old Senator Bernie Sanders, riding the wave of anti-establishment momentum that resulted in the Democrat Socialists prevailing in 3 congressional races in the primaries in the state of New York a couple of weeks ago. Man. So, and this person, by the way, believes in all of the so-called socialist policies that you would expect and wants Medicare for all and free this and free that and government-funded child care. That's top of their list. And also family leave, that's something else they want the government to essentially pay for. Those are the issues I would say that really are towards the top. But then just taxing the ever-loving life out of those who have achieved the most economic success in this country. She's, by the way, from Ethiopia, was born in the capital of Ethiopia in 1997, moved with her family to Colorado as an infant, raised in the Denver area, studied political science and economics. That's hard to believe. At Washington College in Maryland, became a lawyer, earning her law degree from the University of Notre Dame in 2022. Her big thing, of course, is her anti-Israel stance and pro-Palestine stance. She wrote an article in 23 defending pro-Palestinian students and criticizing law firms' responses to student activism, that after the Hamas terror attack on Israel.
So she's a terrorist sympathizer.
Exactly.
On top of being a worthless socialist.
Correct. And that seems to be a very high-profile issue. You've seen this recently on the Democrats. It's this anti-Israel sentiment, pro-Palestine, pro-terrorist. Now, there's one of these nutcases that, what's her name, Chevalier in New York, wants to end incarceration. And actually, there's another one in Virginia that is attempting to end the practice, the law that that would punish murderers and incarcerate murderers. It literally is condoning, sanctioning, justifying homicide. So if you commit
Democrats do it every day with their sanctuary city policy.
That's absolutely true. So if you commit a murder, you may or may not be punished for it, depending on, according to them, what the reasons behind the commission of such a heinous act were. So this is what Kiro said about socialism. For me, socialism is about making it clear we have basic needs. What kind of a society do we want to live in? It doesn't have to be this hard for people to be able to get by. In other words, you want to take from one group and give it to another.
In simpler terms, she wants government to be mommy and daddy.
Correct. Whilst they skim off the top. Don't forget about that. Just incredible that these people believe this would be a superior economic system to the one that has made this country the most powerful, the most free, the most just, the most prosperous ever. Are they just idiots and don't get that? And think they can make it better by putting more government in there? Because I submit it'd be better with less government.
I mean, they willingly put socialist next to their name, so yes, they're idiots.
Unbelievable. So she is going to be on the ballot in the general election. Looking at her campaign finance records, pro-choice organizations, there's a recent PAC that was created, Pro-Choice Majority Action. They have spent heavily on this, and they're all for. So we'll see what happens. It's just amazing to me, this rise of popularity of socialism among the Democrats. Again, years of indoctrination of our young people in our schools by these Marxist loser professors that espouse the virtues of socialism. And let's be honest, it's no longer about Republicans versus Democrats. It's communists versus free enterprise supporters. That's what it's about.
It's sanity versus insanity.
It's exactly
it's
right.
Reality versus la-la land.
But they try to veil it with the democratic socialists. No, you're really communist. You want to take over industry. You want to end the broad private property rights that we enjoy.
But boy, howdy to
country.
the people that have called everybody to the right of center Nazis for the last 16 years.
That's true.
They really get their panties in a twist when you call them communist.
Exactly right. But the truth is that often communist is considered somewhat more of a pejorative. And so I guess they just suit up with the veiling of that using democratic socialists. But let's be honest, they're communists. They just are. And there's some, what's her name, Chevalier in New York. Now we've learned that she went out and deleted all her pro-communist tweets and posts and so forth. I mean, she leaned into it. Yes, I want communism. Incredible. And communism, of course, which not only has never worked, how many people have lost their lives?
Millions upon millions.
Correct. Right. In those countries which implemented communism. Because human nature is such that people want to be free. And communism flies in the face of that. It's an affront to that. And so people who resisted it lost their lives. Just simple as that. And the people who want to implement it, because they benefit from it, remember how it divides people. They're on the side of those who benefit. And anybody
the politicians are.
Right, exactly.
The idiots that vote for them are going to wind up digging ditches instead of writing slam poetry for their cats.
It's the classic bourgeoisie versus the proletariat, and the proletariat are slaves to the bourgeoisie. Yet, these are the same people that say that American free enterprise exploits workers. Are they kidding me? don't think about the fact, don't recognize the fact that, no, it's these communist leaders who enrich themselves personally at the expense off the labor of the proletariat, whose labor they seize and they own.
Ron White said it best. You can't fix stupid.
It's where we are, man. It's a shame. Final segment of the second hour is up next at 12:05. It's Douglas Carswell, President and CEO of the Mississippi Center for Public Policy. We are in the Element Wealth studio.
And see your
Poly up a Mississippi. Covering the stories that matter most to Mississippians. Gerard Gibert. Middays with Gerard. Super Talk, Mississippi.
On the C Spire text line, I'm not a socialist by any means, but they are gaining so much ground because people can't afford the basics anymore. I know it won't work, but what's happening right now isn't working. Too much greed. Who's too greedy? And define greed. I love to get into this debate because I have a different opinion, a different definition of greed. I believe that greed is when you either obtain something that you didn't earn legitimately, lawfully, or you covet something that you really don't want to earn, but rather just want to come about and possess. Trying to produce as much income for yourself, for your family, for your company as you can, as the market will allow, that's not greed. Trying to win every sporting competition, is that greed? Trying to set the curve in every class, is that greed? How's that different? Why is it different? Because we're talking about money. I would say that greed, to me, I would ascribe it more to those in Washington who want control of the economy. That's greed. Socialism is a stronger example of greed than capitalism is. Because socialism is empowering people to make those decisions that have power and authority to do so. Whereas in free market capitalism, you're free to do whatever you want from a market perspective. The market lets you buy and sell voluntarily. And so I know that folks look at the super wealthy in our society. We're the reason they're so wealthy. We keep buying their stuff. I know Paul Meridian, he talks about this a lot. I respect his opinion on this. He says, I don't believe in taxing the rich to death, but I also don't agree with the way they keep everything. Not the lion's share. I'm not sure what you're saying there, Paul. It's all of it, and they kick the crumbs off the table to their employees down the line. And I'll say it again, CEOs of professional athletes make too much money. Well, how much should they make, Paul? And who should determine how much they make? Government or the market? Just let the market work. The greed, he says, is the ones at the top of the food chain pinching the ones below the top of the food chain. What do you mean pinching? How are they pinching them? Nobody's forcing them to go to work there. Go work somewhere else. Jensen Huang. Paul, you may be aware, he's the CEO of NVIDIA. You know 75% of their employees are multimillionaires, and half of them have a net worth over $20 million. Is that greed? Is that not sharing the wealth? I'd say it's pretty good. You can go down the list, and again, nobody's forcing people to go to work for these companies. And you can't overlook the fact that these are the people who took the most risk. Thus, they got the greatest reward. They took the most risk. They had the ideas. They had the gumption, the initiative. And the market rewarded them. And I know you said the same thing about athletes. Well, there's an easy way to end the high compensation of athletes, stop going to games. Stop buying the merchandise. Stop watching them on TV and checking them out on the news sites and everything else we do that incorporates athletics in our lives. You know why we do it? Because it's entertaining. These are entertainers, and we're willing to part with our money for their entertainment.
You'd have to do without a lot of products and services if you excluded those that Shaq is a face for.
That's true. That's a good point. And did I read LeBron says he ain't going to play for the Lakers next year, right?
Oh, yeah.
Been around a long time, man. So I'm not trying to be confrontational with you, Paul. You know this, and I think you and I have a different outlook and just viewpoint on this. But my fear is government steps in and says, you're making too much money. Because I promise you, it starts today with the Elon Musk of the world, and the next thing you know, Paul, it's you. You know
just
exactly.
Look at income tax.
I'm telling you, it's what happens. And the government
income
says,
tax was
you make too much.
instituted so that the richest Americans could pay for everybody else.
That's exactly
and
right.
Nowadays, everybody that's actually contributing to society pays income tax.
Yep. But here's the deal. There's some people who believe that income tax should be structured as a punishment mechanism. No. The income tax structure, the policy, the system, it should be designed to produce the minimum income required to fund the constitutionally appropriate functions of government. Not as a tool to, you got too much, we got to take it from you and give it to them. That's not what income taxes are, or taxes, period. That's not how they're supposed to be designed. But that's exactly what the Democrats want. We got to go punish the people that make too much by shaking them down for more taxes so that I, almighty, omnipotent government elected official, can allocate that money as I see fit. The news is next, then Douglas Carswell.
And now, the talk that keeps Mississippi talking.
That's what I like to listen to.
You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert. Here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Winter is here again, oh Lord. I've been home.
Welcome back, everyone. It's hour 3, the afternoon portion of Middays. We are live from the Element Wealth studio on this
Match day.
Appreciate that, Rhino. We welcome now Douglas Carswell. He's the president and CEO of the Mississippi Center for Public Policy. Douglas, good to see you again, man. Thanks for coming in.
Great to be on your show. Thank you for having me.
So I know that the topic that we wanted to discuss today is a brand new tool that you guys have released, and it's very straightforward. It's a tax tool where folks in Mississippi can log on and enter some really simple, straightforward information about their income, the value of their house, their vehicle, and the tool will come back and say, well, this is pretty much what your taxes are, and then how those are spent in the state of Mississippi. Talk about that.
It's actually inspired, Gerard, by something you said. I remember you saying something on air about all the different databases and how scattered around they were, and if only someone could bring them together. Yeah. And so that's what we've done. Well,
good. Appreciate
created.
That.
We should have called it the Gerard.
I don't know about that.
Basically, if you live in Mississippi, you're probably wondering why, almost irrespective of who you vote for, public spending seems to go up and your tax bill seems to only move one way. I think the fundamental reason for this is not because one particular party is in office rather than another, but because we can't see what they're doing with our dollars. So the idea is you go onto this tax tool. It's taxtoolms.com. You go in there, you put in the bare minimum about your income and your details, and it does a couple of things. First of all, it tells you your total tax bill to federal government, to state government, and to local government. Then it allows you to sort of break that down a little bit so that if you're paying thousands of dollars to the state government, you can actually go in and see what are they spending your dollars on.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, it's well presented.
Yeah. And the whole idea behind it is accountability, to let sunlight in as a disinfectant. So that if you go in there and you see that you're paying thousands of dollars to the state government and they are spending that money, passing it on, you see who the recipient is. That's the first thing it does. The second feature we have on this is a way of going in there and seeing who gets the tax dollars in Mississippi. Yeah. There's something like 21,000 vendors in Mississippi. Many of them are very small individual people who might receive a small payment. Okay. But some of them are vast conglomerates. And what we've done is very simply allow you to go in there and see who gets your tax dollars. State money, federal money, who's actually getting it. And one of the things I think the most interesting things about this is you can see who is getting big uplifts in public money. It's got a feature there that shows the organizations that have received the largest increase in public money. Mm-hmm. I think people need to be able to see this. Too often, decisions about tax and spend are made by a group of politicians in a weekend in the legislature. This allows you to see the data that they can see. Up until now, you've not been able to see this information. TaxToolMS.com allows you to go in there and see it.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I plug my information in. Man, I pay a lot of taxes.
It can be a little depressing, but I think when people see that, it was 250 years ago, almost to the day, that the Americans decided no taxation without representation. Right. They were complaining about, I think, a 4% tax on tea at the time.
That's right.
Today, you're paying a little bit closer to sort of 30-40% in tax. Go in there and see what it is the latter-day George III's in Mississippi and Washington are taxing you, and go in and see what it is they're doing with your dollars.
Yeah, and I'm looking, as you know, the tool right now has federal outlays for 24, and of course that's actually up since then. So, and there doesn't seem to be any slowdown. Even the president's calling for a significant increase in defense spending. The Department of War, $500 billion. He wants more.
One of the most frightening things about the TaxToolMS.com is you can go in there and see how your federal and state tax bill has grown, how the public spending has grown over the years. And when it comes to federal spending, you've seen this astronomical increase under all political parties. Yeah. And you can then drill down and see why is it. For example, because of debt interest repayment, that's gone up something like 200% in terms of cost over the past 6 or 7 years. Yeah. We have these conversations in Mississippi. Should we expand Medicaid? Should we not expand Medicaid? Go in there and have a look at mstaxtool.com. You'll see, thank goodness we didn't expand Medicaid, because we've had all these upward pressures on our public spending in Mississippi. There's only been a 3% increase in what we're spending on Medicaid. Had Tate Reeves not prevailed on that argument, you would have seen a significantly larger chunk of your tax dollars being spent on a system of healthcare that doesn't actually deliver outcomes. So I think hopefully we can have a more informed discussion. So next time there's a legislative session and some politician comes out and says, we've got to commit to spending your tax dollars on whatever it is, we can go in there and have a conversation. What are the actual consequences of that going to be?
I think, to your point, perhaps one of the greatest takeaways from a positive perspective from the tool is folks can go to this one place and actually see how spending at the federal and state level is allocated. Yeah. I think the average person on the street, and they shouldn't have to worry about it, honestly. The folks we elect should take care of this and be good stewards of that money, but that doesn't always happen. But I think this will open people's eyes when they see this.
One of the most sobering things about it is when you realize that of the $20 billion or so tax dollars spent in Mississippi every year, only about $7 billion of those are allocated by the state government. The rest come from the federal government. And of course, the federal government gives them to agencies in Mississippi with strings attached. So who is really in charge of public administration in Mississippi? Is it us through our state legislature, or is it the administrative state and the swamp in Washington through all these handouts? Now we can see this, we can perhaps start to do something about it.
Well, hopefully. And there's also, I should point out for our audience, that there are or buttons that you can click and find out who your representatives are.
Yes.
In fact, those are entitled, those are labeled Contact Your Representatives, both in the federal breakdown of your tax bill and the state breakdown. So the tool then displays based on the address you entered or the location, the city you entered, and county, it tells you who your reps are. You call them.
Yeah, if you look at it, you're outraged at how much your tax bill is, you're outraged at the huge increase in public spending. The tool allows you to contact your lawmaker and tell them, look, this is how much money I'm giving you. This is what you're spending it. Can you actually do your job, for goodness sake, as a lawmaker? do what the legislature was set up to do and stop people from spending public money.
Yeah. Well, there doesn't seem to be an end in sight that I can tell. And what I mean by that is it's been a long time. I'm not sure if I could go back and find a scenario, a situation where the budget at either the federal or state level was lower than the prior year.
Yep.
I don't think that happened.
Arguably, as we came out of COVID, by some measures, there was a decline because there was such a spike during COVID.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think your point is a good one. And we've been on people talk about tax cuts and people talk about economic policy. The thing we have to get right first and foremost is controlling public spending. Here in Mississippi, we passed legislation, that's the easy bit, to eliminate the income tax. We're not going to eliminate the income tax if we don't control public spending. If public spending, if the Senate leadership gets its way, we would see significant uplifts in public expenditure that would make it impossible for us to deliver on the income tax elimination proposal that we've legislated for. So this is about making sure that we don't, in effect, through higher public spending, remove all the achievements that we've had that are fueling Mississippi's growth and success.
As you know, we currently have a 4% flat rate on all taxable income over $10,000. This would be the last year of the legislation, I believe, passed in 22 or 23 that it eliminated, as you recall, the 4% bracket and then reduced to 5 down to 4% over 3 years. We're in the final year of that legislation. Yep. And then the bill passed in 25. HB 1 kicks in, and we start nipping away at the 4% bracket we currently have, taking it down to 3% over 4 years. Then the triggers, as you were referring to, kick in. It remains to be seen whether or not it's tenable and whether or not we can continue to reduce the income tax given the formula to calculate whether or not, and you know there's a drafting error in that, and what's going to happen with that, who knows at this point.
But if we can control public spending, we can make good on those triggers.
Well, let's talk about that on the other side of the break. There's some ideas on controlling public spending. We got Douglas Carswell, President and CEO of Mississippi Center for Public Policy, in the Element Wealth studio.
I love the Tigers, but I hate the Mets. I ride my hog and I race my vet. I got a job, but hell, I'm still in debt. I love my car and I love my truck. I do most anything to make a buck. I love a waitress who loves to flirt. They're the best kind. Turn me on. Well, gotta go now. Bye-bye.
Callaway's is everything that's growing green. That's what Callaway's is.
This is Brent Callaway with Callaway's Yard and Garden. Our family would like to thank all of our loyal customers for their support over the many years. Callaway's retirement sale has ended, and we will have an online auction selling the remaining inventory along with all furniture and fixtures. This will include patio furniture, shelving, display props, counters, trucks, trailers, forklift, skid steer loader, and more. Everything must go. The auction will be handled by Taylor Auction Company. We will post a link on our Facebook page and on our website, or you can visit TaylorAuction.com. Thanks again for 72 wonderful years, and be sure to visit TaylorAuction.com.
Callaway's is everything for home and garden. That's what Callaway's is. Callaway's is. Callaway's is everything for home and garden. That's what Callaway's is.
Hello, my name is John Merrill, the owner of Amada Senior Care. We're your local trusted advisor for senior home care. We provide experienced caregivers for your loved ones so they can remain in their home. Just like you would care for your loved ones, our employees provide assistance with their personal care needs. As your trusted senior advisor, I can help your family navigate the long-term care insurance process. Just call me, John Merrill with Amada Senior Care, for your free in-home consultation. 601-864-3752.
For a flipping good time, come down to Cock of the Walk.
The big news is shrimp at Cock of the Walk. Try all their shrimp offerings with the new shrimp platter, combination plates with shrimp and catfish, shrimp and chicken, or put a feather in your cap with all three in the red feather sampler. And don't forget the greens and coleslaw, with locations on the Reservoir, Pocahontas, and 1 mile from the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Tennessee.
I like chicken. I like fish. I like hush puppies.
I love it. Catfish is excellent.
For a flipping good time, come down to Cock of the Walk.
Hey guys, this is Schaefer Davidson and my wife Lori, owners of Davidson Marble and Granite of Canton, Vicksburg, and McGee. We also have Davidson Monument Company of Forest and Kosciuszko, as well as Central Mississippi Monument Company of Carthage and Louisville.
We offer a variety of granite, marble, and bronze headstones. We are back to pre-pandemic lead times with gray granite running approximately 2 to 3 months.
We are a third-generation family-owned business serving Mississippi since 1937. Check us out on Facebook or at DavidsonMarbleandGranite.com.
I've seen them. You've seen them. We've all seen them. Those out-of-state fly-by-night tree guys rolling around in trucks held together with duct tape and pure optimism. Call the real pros, Barone's Tree Pros, local, insured, and qualified. And hey, always check that insurance, because if one of those mystery crews drops a tree on your house, they're going to vanish faster than that free donut at the office. Go with the trusted pros at Barone's Tree Pros. And don't forget, Jay and the Man is ready to provide estimates. Call them today at 601-345-8090 or give them a visit at baronestreepros.com.
No filibuster, just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
We interrupt this program.
Gerard Gibert.
Here we go.
This is huge news. Huge news. You need to listen to this.
Middays with Gerard, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Fighting soldiers from the sky, fearless men who jump and die, men who mean just what they say, the brave men of the Green Beret, silver wings upon their chest. These are men, America's best.
I remember when that was released, honoring the Green Berets. I remember it. Sergeant somebody or another was his name?
Barry Sadler.
There you go. Yep. Remember him performing that? Maybe he's on the Ed Sullivan Show or something like that, right? You were shaking your head. That's when it was. And he came on dressed in his Army Special Forces Green Beret uniform, and it just evoked such a sense of pride. I mean, because you could tell he's just so proud. And he should be. So we're talking to Douglas Carswell, President and CEO of Mississippi Center for Public Policy. We were just reviewing a new tax tool, tax dollars. Where do they go? That has been published by the Center for Public Policy, and I'm on it. And it's neat. It's good. Congratulations. Good job. And yeah, you're right. I did express to you one day that if you just try to find out what the financial picture looks like for all the various myriad of state agencies, you can't go to one place to get all that. I'm sure that you went and probably researched that and found the same. Yep. It's frustrating.
Yeah, and because you said that, we've gone away and now you can. We should have called it the Gerard Gibert Tax Tool. It's taxtoolms.com.
It's good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's talk about spending. So I had this discussion with the Lieutenant Governor in the show last week that our spending is up for fiscal year 27 relative to our budget in 26. Now, that's largely driven by the increase in teacher pay. Mm-hmm. The legislature voted to increase teacher pay, and they're funding that through increasing the base student cost. Mm-hmm. Up about $300 per student, now has eclipsed the $7,000 mark. And, of course, as you know, the Medicaid program, that is the number 2 spending category about 12 or 13% of total spending, and they showed up and wanted a bunch more money for their budget, and I don't think that's going away. So that and corrections, 75% of our spending. What can we do?
Well, you've talked about it because you were talking to Delbert Hoseman from the point of view of someone who sets the tax bill. Turn it around and look at it from the point of view of the average household income in Mississippi. Say, for example, you earned about $70,000. Go into Tax Tool MS, type in $70,000. You'll see from that about $16,000 a year you pay of that $70,000 in tax. So if you're earning $70,000, you've got a total tax bill of about $16,000. Of that $16,000, about $4,200 is paid to the state government. Now, what do they do with it? The lion's share of that, nearly $4 out of $10 that you give to the state government, goes on education.
Yeah.
Now, okay, I get that politicians say pay teachers more, but we've seen a dramatic decline in the number of students in the public school system over the past decade. Many families in Mississippi don't send their kids to public school. A growing number don't send their kids to public school. And we see a huge increase in the number of bureaucrats and administrators in the local public school system. We see a huge increase in spending that is not getting into the classroom. So perhaps, and I'm going to get on to my favorite topic in a second, perhaps the solution to this, instead of requiring that people hand over 4 out of 10 of their dollars to the state government for education, allow some families to take roughly half of what it costs the state to educate a child and have school choice. School choice isn't just good for school standards, it actually helps manage the money better because it allows people who want to opt out to take half the money, half of it remaining, and opt out. It would allow you to reduce this constant pressure to carry on increasing the charge to the Mississippi taxpayer to fund a system of public education that more and more families are opting out of.
Yeah, and you know this. The response often from those under the dome at the Capitol is that we got to continue to pay the public school teachers more to keep up, especially with the neighboring states, and that we currently have lots of openings for public school teachers. We can't fill them. They think that maybe is because the pay needs to be bumped up to make it a more attractive position. By the way, I just ran a scenario that you just cited, $70,000 in Mississippi, and the tax bill from a state perspective, $4,221, of which that's wrong. 1615 goes to K through 12.
Yep. And that's about 40% of the proportion that you give to the state government. So that should be where I think you can get most savings. You can get some savings by reducing the number of boards and slimming down the state government. But don't make the mistake of thinking that just closing down a few government departments and agencies is going to be enough to keep public spending under control. You have to do something to stop the constant demands to increase the tax burden by, putting more money into the public school system and not getting returns from it. So I think, if you want to increase teacher pay, great, but allow families to take their tax dollars and opt out.
Yeah.
Incidentally, the private school system in Mississippi never has any problems in attracting incredibly good, talented teachers. So maybe it's what they do with the dollars rather than how many dollars they get. I can't help noticing when people complain about the public school system in Mississippi not getting enough money, the school superintendents, of which there are something like 80 scattered across the state, often earn more each year than the governor, not just of this state, but the governor of the state of California.
Yeah, it's lopsided. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. It needs to be reined in. And you're right. And often private school teachers earn less than the public school teachers do in the state of Mississippi. Yeah. And but yet those ranks are still in pretty good shape. Property taxes is a subject that has come up a lot. I know you hear it. I hear it. It's painful. I don't like paying. And by the way, the tool also you can enter the value of your market value of your property and your vehicle, and the tool will also tell you what you're paying there.
Yeah, I should say the property tax feature is not perfect. There are a few glitches in it, but there are lots of caveats when you get to that section.
Noticed, but it's something at least to chew on and to understand. Mainly that depending on the county, but in general, about half of your ad valorem taxes on your property goes to school districts, and the tool reflects that. And then the county gets the next largest portion, usually 25 to 27%. Then below that, if you live in the city limits, 10, 12, 15% or so. And then there's some special districts that get some other allocation. But you know this, Douglas, that people want to see something done about these property taxes. And one idea maybe is to cap the increases at the CPI, just to align property tax increase. Look, inflation, we get it. County, school district, cities, your costs are going up. You got to have more revenue. But you shouldn't raise property taxes to exceed at least the rate of inflation. At a minimum, that ought to be on the table.
Yeah, I mean, okay. A fundamental question. If you're going to get rid of the income tax, how do you raise the revenue to do the stuff that government needs to do?
Yes.
Number one, I'd say get government to do a lot less, but do it well.
Yeah.
Number two, I'd say taxes on property, but you don't want to get into a situation where you essentially have people who don't really own their property because they get such an exorbitant tax bill every year. I think the fairest way to do it is taxes on consumption. And no one likes paying tax, but I think that is the fairest way of raising revenue.
And I would agree that that is generally considered the most effective, the most fair, the most efficient approach for government to raise revenue in the conservative circles. I mean, that's what we conservatives believe.
The left, of course, hates taxes on consumption because you can't tax people more for the extra consumption. You can't have the so-called progressive rate of taxation. I have to say that's one of the reasons why I like it, because I think there's a certain fairness. Taxes on consumption are inherently flat, inherently fat.
Yeah, and they consider it regressive, as you know, and they bellyache about it. And there have been some attempts to, of course, with the fair tax, which would implement a flat tax at the federal level, but they don't generally get very far. But you recall that when the tax bill that passed in, I believe, 23, it could have been 22, I lose track of the year there, the one that currently is in effect.
22,
22, right. Yeah. That got rid of the 4% the first year.
Flat
and then
tax reform.
That's right. And then we got it, we chipped away at the 5% to where it is today, down to 4%. But you remember the original proposal was to eliminate the income tax and do it on a much shorter time frame, but by raising sales taxes. And that got met with all kinds of response that was negative and reaction that wasn't favorable to that. There
was an element of a tax swap rather than a tax reduction, and that ran into trouble.
It did.
I mean, there's one thing that people really feel tax on car tax. And sometimes the more visible a tax is, the more resistance there is to it. So if you're interested in tax reform, sometimes actually it slightly defies rationale. Getting rid of visible taxes is a smarter idea than necessarily the total amount of revenue generated.
It's just human nature, because it's visible, as you say. Hang around, we keep talking.
Wonderful.
I did some math on the car tax. Coming right back.
Okay.
From the Seabrook Middays with Gerard.
Good for America. Good for fans of justice and truth. Good for us.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is what we stand for.
What'd you say? What happened in the game?
I'm sure they're going to have to double check it on VAR, but it looks like Harry Kane just scored the equalizer for England.
Oh, there you go. Good news.
I breathe a sigh of relief. England usually likes to win in the last minute in wars and football.
A slate of 4 games today, I think. Isn't that right? 3 games. Okay.
Well, I'm going to be sitting for the next 10 minutes in this interview on tenterhooks. Let me know if you hear anything more.
Rhino's all over it, man. He's watching it.
Thank you. It may not be as exciting as your football, but I'm still gripped.
Oh, well. So we're talking about with Douglas Carswell, President and CEO of Mississippi Center for Public Policy, just talking about the state's financial condition and what we can do to stay out of your pocket. That's the main thing. We, of course, in the state level, we still have an income tax hanging around. We, of course, pay sales taxes and we pay property taxes. Those are the three big sources of revenue. It's sales taxes and income taxes to the state. It's sales taxes and property taxes at the city. It's property taxes in the counties, and then school districts get some allocation from the state. They also get local money as well. And they get a bunch of money from the federal government, as you pointed out earlier as well. They're probably the biggest recipient of it. That and Medicaid. I mean, the dadgum Medicaid program, we were talking about that offline, that now is an $8.5 billion total program. It's jointly funded, federal, state, and some provider taxes. Douglas, that's larger than our state's general fund budget. We're in the healthcare business.
It's a cuckoo in the nest, and it's only going to get bigger unless we're very, very careful. And I don't think that the federal contribution to that is likely to keep pace with the political pressure to increase funding. So where's that going to come from? They're going to try and get the state politicians to keep on giving more and more and more. And I just think there's an unfairness. At what point do you reach where you suddenly think to yourself, hang on, all these people around me are getting Medicaid. Why am I bothering handing over for my family and my employer handing over for my family, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a year for coverage when the guy down the street is getting it for free? So I think there's something fundamentally unfair about this kind of undeclared expansion of Medicaid. It's not just fiscally nuts. I think it's deeply unfair on working Mississippians to do this.
Well, I think a lot of states that did expand, Louisiana, Arkansas, they're kind of having some remorse about that. It's breaking them.
We wouldn't even be having this conversation about eliminating the income tax if we had made the mistake that they had done. And at the time when Governor Tate Reeves insisted and put his foot down and said no to Medicaid expansion, I remember a lot of good, decent conservatives kind of humming and hawing and not being sure about it. But if you go on to mstaxtool.com and look at what the implications of that rejection of Medicaid expansion are, thank goodness he did it. Thank goodness he had the strength of character to actually say no to this. Because if he hadn't, we would not be talking about income tax elimination now. We'd be talking about increasing taxes.
Well, $200 or $300 million more would on the state side would be added to our budget, which would have really just put us in a situation where we may be looking at a deficit as opposed to a surplus.
And then you've got PERS, you've got all these pressures. Now, when a politician says they're going to increase spending and it's a one-off project, they're going to build a new road or invest in an airport or fix the water system in Jackson, that's kind of okay because that's a one-off cost. But what you're talking about here is a recurring expense. Permanent expense. The permanent taking money off ordinary Mississippians to give to someone else. And you're basically turning the Mississippi economy into a sort of California or should I say a European type economy. And that is not a pretty picture for Mississippi's future.
And as you know, that the plan that was floated to expand Medicaid included a significant amount of provider taxes, and essentially the providers of the medical services that are reimbursed with Medicaid sort of pay some of that back just to get reimbursed. States then use that to tap more federal money. But the One Big Beautiful Bill Act next year kind of put the clamps down on that and is now reduced to safe harbor. Point I'm making is had we moved forward, our proposal, the structure we were using, would have fallen apart. It would have come on us.
We can look back and say, thank goodness things turned out the way they did, because we would be in a mess if they hadn't.
That's so, and that's a problem, again, sweeping the country. We got 75 million people enrolled in the Medicaid program, and of course there's a lot of scamming, as you know, of the program and defrauding of it, and it's a little different than I think most people think about the participants, the recipients, the insured, and now what we're learning is mostly on the providers themselves that are scamming these programs.
I suspect that it's a bit like an iceberg. The visible fraud is dwarfed by a lot of the hidden fraud.
That's a good point,
But putting aside the criminality of fraud, I think there's a fundamental issue that we probably need to address with an insurance-based model. there's a real friction between the insurance companies and the providers. It's a sort of confrontational system where it pays them not to be frictionless. And this pushes up the costs for everyone in the Mississippi medical system.
It does.
And I wonder if actually you need to look really carefully at what can be done to remove some of the friction between the insurance companies and the providers, because I think that is probably the key to getting more bang for your buck. At the moment, the insurance companies and the providers have no incentive to do anything other than lawyer up and be difficult. But I think another model might be for primary care, the model that they have now emerging in Florida and elsewhere, where you pay in effect a sort of subscription monthly fee to a provider. So instead of insurance-based provision, you have insurance for secondary medical costs, but for primary medical costs, you move to a subscription-based model. I think we need to think seriously about how to do that. That's the way we can get much more bang for our medical buck.
And we've had the discussion before as well about the certificate of need laws in the state of Mississippi, which we honestly believe might be a hindrance to expanding healthcare facilities, clinics, machines, et cetera. We've had a little reform success this past year. But still got a ways to go.
I think the bill that passed, and I forget the names, there were actually two bills, really significant. One, because it's the very first time that a law has been passed to repeal certificate of need.
Yeah.
But secondly, it shows that the guys inside the government machine now get this. This was largely driven by people on the Mississippi Health Board.
It's true.
They now understand it. And I think, sure, I get that some hospitals are going to be nervous about certificate of need reform. A key part of their business model is to have this privileged right to provide medical services. But I think now momentum is moving because the bureaucrats and the machinery of government now gets the idea that certificate of need is inflating the costs. I think there's a serious chance now of us making some serious headway to eliminate a lot of these intentionally restrictive laws. We've tried to do this through litigation for years and not really got very far. I think we're going to see some big progress now in the legislative front.
Yeah, I think you may be right. There's certainly some folks in the legislature that believe in this, that believe there should be significant reform, and I think they're going to keep pushing it.
You've got these great figures like Hank Zuber and Sam Creekmore who've understood this and been campaigning for this for a long time. What's really significant is now other people are starting to see it the way Sam and Hank and
I think you're right.
Jason White see it.
I mean, this is an ancient concept, started in New York, as you know, in the 70s, and it's kind of past its time.
Yeah, and it's kept alive in Tico's restaurant, I think, probably, with lobbyists buying lawmakers' dinner. But I think certificate of need needs to go. We will begin, I think, to see more legislation brought forward. Fantastic. It's not enough to fix the problem, though. I think you need to seriously think, what is it that insurance companies and providers could do collaboratively better to remove some of those friction costs?
Yeah.
I think that's a question not just for Mississippi. I think it's a question for America.
I agree. And I always point out, and I don't mind doing it here as well, the insurance companies don't make any money either. Those are not very profitable companies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, they take an enormous amount of revenue, but their margins are very, very slender.
It's less than grocery stores.
Yeah.
I mean, United Healthcare makes less than Kroger.
It's a cheap shot to blame the insurance companies.
I agree.
Leftists have been doing this, and it's nonsense. It shows how little they understand how healthcare is provided. Insurance companies do a good job, but I think we could try to make sure that insurance companies and providers do a better job.
I agree.
By removing some of the friction.
There's a lot of time and money spent on just the confrontation and sorting that out, and the patients and taxpayers aren't being served well in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. Appreciate you coming in,
Gerard. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much. I must get back to the game.
You got it, man. Any update, Rhino?
Still 1-1.
1-1. There you go.
There's hope.
Douglas Carswell, President and CEO of Mississippi Center for Public Policy. We're coming right back in the Element Well studio. Final segment is next.
Covering the stories that matter most to Mississippians. Gerard Gibert. Middays with Gerard. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Man, I looked around. I thought I was at Camp Shelby for a minute there. You're always good about playing the theme songs from the armed forces.
Had several requests.
Oh, that's awesome.
On the text line.
Great stuff, man. Love it. It certainly, we're patriotic all the time, but especially this week and especially this year, 250, that's a big deal. Benjamin Franklin, he would be proud that the Republic is still surviving. Isn't that what he famously said? What you guys doing there when they were meeting to draft the Constitution? Well, we're creating a republic if we can just keep it. And there are some, of course, who have attempted numerous times and are still working to try to tear it down, but we ain't going to let that happen, certainly not here. So Paula Meridian says, I want to see property taxes have a decrease when your kids graduate from public school. What if your kids don't go to public school, Paul? Should you pay property taxes? And I'm not trying to be argumentative, but I hear you. And I know that's a popular proposal. You've heard that too, Rhino. Folks have said two main things you hear about reforming property taxes, maybe three. One is, if I'm beyond childbearing age, but what if you never have any children? You see how complicated that gets. Second would be, I own my property outright. And folks say, on that basis, I shouldn't have a property tax bill. And then third is, I'm over 65. I've worked all my life. I've paid taxes. Give me a break here. And what I would say to that, Paul, is I'm for that as well. I'm for lowering property taxes. I pay a pretty stiff property tax bill, and I don't like it, sure, certainly. But then that would mean while your kids are in school, you pay more. That's the way, you see what I mean? That's the way the math works. So it's easy to say now my kids are out, give me a break, but okay, but you didn't pay enough when your kids were in school to support the schools. Can the schools cut spending? Absolutely. Is there some work we can do there? Absolutely. But you recall when we had Representative Rob Robertson on the program last week or maybe the week before, we had that discussion because he is co-chair of one of Speaker of the House Jason White's select committees that is in the off-season here between sessions studying the possibility of school district consolidation. And, of course, the idea being to save money but also to improve the education outcomes, and that's one of the things Representative Robertson said. I said, well, do you think out of this, are we going to reduce the amount allocated per student? Don't think that's in our future. And that would mean, of course, we're spending less, therefore we could cut your taxes. That's not the objective here. So I don't look for that to result in any sort of tax savings to the taxpayers, regardless of what happens after that consolidation effort. You can make all kinds of arguments about the property tax stuff, and again, man, I want to cut property taxes, but I think we've got to think of other ways to accomplish that other than just say, you guys get less revenue. Can the school districts, the counties, the cities be more efficient in their management of their various entities? Absolutely, 100%. But I think we have to recognize that the cost of stuff does go up. And certainly a lot of the things that they're responsible for, that they spend their money on, like taking care of roads and bridges and water systems, that actually has gone up beyond inflation in many cases. And that's a problem. I think we just need to have a serious discussion, and that should include the people responsible for spending your property taxes. That's the folks that run the school districts, the counties, the cities. I hope that the legislature brings those guys in and talks to them and starts exploring ways to cut their spending, so maybe that can result in some property tax relief. But you know the best way to get property taxes down? Bring in more industry that pays more property taxes or pays property taxes in such a way that it's not a major component of their expenses, and that would allow supervisors of counties to reduce property taxes. I've said it many times. I'm lobbying my county of Madison, which is about to come into a significant amount of revenue because of the big AWS investment in Madison County. Hey, give us a break. Eventually you're going to get about 3/4 as much money from Amazon as you do the entire rest of the county. That's going to happen once all that stuff's online. Give us some savings here. We should be doing that across our entire state. That's the way to get property taxes down, is bring in industry that happily pays those taxes. They're going to have to pay it anywhere they go. It's just part of their expense model, and pass on the savings in the form of the additional revenue equal to the additional revenue counties are getting. You know what I'm saying.
That's also going to require electing local leadership that don't see it as an opportunity to hire their buddies or their family or their friends into a government position.
Or just have all this, look at all this money I got now, I can go spend it. No, give us some tax relief. Out of here today, back tomorrow. Stay safe and God bless.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.